Okay, class. So we've been working on our author study with Beverly Cleary and Ralph Mouse, and we know that Beverly Cleary uses a lot of different devices throughout her writing to make it more interesting for the reader. So today we're going to start looking at something that makes it easier for the reader to visualize what the author wants you to see when you're reading, because our chapter books don't have pictures. So we're going to look at adjectives. Adjectives are something that describe a noun. They make it so that, as I said, the reader can visualize and see in their head, they can picture it when they think about it, what the author wants you to see. They're describing words. All right, so we know nouns are three things. What three things are nouns? They're a person, a place, or a thing. All right, so we're going to look in our Beverly Cleary book, The Mouse and the Motorcycle, for some different adjectives that she uses to help us visualize the noun that she's talking about. Okay, so nouns can be anything like colors, numbers, texture like fuzzy or smooth, anything that describes that noun that helps us think about what it looks like, maybe what it feels like. It really gets our five senses going while we're reading. Okay, so the first sentence that I have that I picked from The Mouse and the Motorcycle is about the hotel that they're staying in. So we know the Mountain View Inn, and we know that Mrs. Gridley really doesn't like it at first. She finds it to be dirty, dusty, really old. Okay? So the first sentence I have, I'm going to put on our anchor chart for adjectives. Alright, so we have sentences, nouns, and adjectives. Alright, so our sentence is, but this big old hotel is positively spooky. Alright, so this but this big old hotel is positively spooky. Alright, and that is on page 14. It's important that I put the page numbers so that you guys can find examples when you're doing this activity. Okay? So our noun in that sentence. As we went over, nouns are a person, place, or thing. So let me see. But this big old hotel is positively spooky. Well, I think hotel is our noun because that's the only thing in the sentence that's a person, place, or thing. It's a place. It's a hotel. So our noun is hotel. Okay? And now we're going to look for our adjectives. Now our adjectives describe the noun. So what adjectives in this sentence describe our noun, which is hotel? I think there's a lot in here, but I'm going to pick out a couple. So, but this big old hotel is positively spooky. So I think big and old are describing how the hotel looks. It's big in size and it's old looking. So we have big and old. And then I think spooky is an adjective because spooky is explaining another way that the hotel is. The hotel seems spooky. It might look spooky because we know Mrs. Gridley thinks that it's dirty and there's mice and all that stuff. So I think spooky is another adjective. Okay? So now let's look for another example in our book. Okay, we'll go to like a couple of the chapters that we read recently. So we'll go to chapter 4. Alright. The mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all. Alright, so the mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all. Oops, wrong color. Really would run after all. And again, whoops, that one has an exclamation point, which we know our punctuation is important. And that is on page 43. Okay, so our noun in this sentence, let's think about our noun. The mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all. So which one is a person, place, or thing? Alright, I'll repeat the sentence. The mouse-sized motorcycle really would run after all. Good, motorcycle. Okay, so then our adjectives, I think there's really only one in this sentence because it's describing the size of the motorcycle, which helps me visualize how big it is. So the sentence says mouse-sized. So when I picture a mouse-sized motorcycle, I picture a mouse, which I think is about like this big, and then I think of a motorcycle that a mouse could fit on. So that helps me visualize the motorcycle. Right? So we have our adjective is mouse-sized. Okay? Now this adjective mouse-sized is kind of funny because it's hyphenated. It's not a typical adjective, but you can use these types of adjectives. Like I said before, adjectives are anything that this can describe the size, the way it looks, a number, a color, the way it feels, things that activate your five senses and help you visualize the noun. Alright, so our last example is going to be on page 51 if you guys want to look in your books. Okay, and it is, he passed room 213, ran out of breath, let momentum carry him past another noisy snorer in room 211, on down the hall to the elevator, the mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place Ralph had heard so much about, the ground floor. Right, so that's a really long sentence, so I'm going to write a smaller portion that we're going to look at. So I'm going to look at the mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place. Elevator that carried people to that wonderful place. And so that was page 51. Okay, so this one has a couple nouns in it. We're going to look at the first one. So that's going to be, can anybody guess which one we're going to look at? We need a person, place, or thing. Alright. So we have elevator. Alright, so that's the noun that we're going to look at right now. Alright, so our elevator. So adjectives can come directly before or sometimes after the noun that they're describing. Okay? So when we go back to our first sentence, but this big old hotel is positively spooky, we have big and old directly in front of hotel, so we know that it's talking about the hotel. And then we have spooky that follows that. But we can figure out, because there's only one noun in that sentence, that spooky is describing hotel. So in this one, we can find the adjective for elevator really easily because it's right in front. So the elevator is extremely mysterious. Okay? Now, I said that there were two nouns in this sentence. So I want to see if you guys can pick out the next one. Okay? So we'll look at this one too because we have time. So that mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place. Does anybody have a guess? All right, good, place, because a noun is a person, place, or thing. So even though the place isn't exactly described, it's no place in particular, well, we find out after that it's a place in particular. We're talking about the ground floor, right? Okay, so this is another one. It's just like elevator where the adjective comes right in front of it, so we know that it's explaining the place. So that wonderful place. So we know that it's wonderful. That's explaining the place that Ralph really wants to see. Okay? So, while we went through this, we figured out that adjectives describe the noun. They can be a color, they can be a number, they can be something that describes size, shape, the way it feels. You can do it with food, the way it tastes, how lemons can taste sour. Okay, but we went through some nouns that were in Beverly Cleary's book. Alright, so now I want you guys to try with me. Alright, so you guys are going to take a stab, and we'll put this right down here. And then we'll move this up so we have room. Alright, so we're going to go back to chapter 3. You guys can pull out your books and I'll also read it to you aloud and show it to you on the board. Okay? So it's going to be page 31. Alright, and we have, can you guys see it? Okay. So we're going to start at Ralph. Okay? So, Ralph heard a delighted laugh from the second floor maid, a college girl who was working for the summer season. Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my rooms. I'm afraid of them. Alright, so let's look at that sentence. We'll just look at what she said. So she said, mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my rooms. Alright, so that's the sentence we're going to look at. Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my room. Alright. So now, what is our noun in this sentence? Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my rooms. Okay, so a noun is a person, place, or thing. Good, mice. Alright. So our noun is mice. Alright. And what is our adjective in this instance? Mice are adorable, but just the same, I hope I never find any in my rooms. Does the adjective come before our noun in this sentence? No, because mice is the first word in our sentence, right? And that's our noun. So that means that it has to come after. So can anybody find that adjective for mice? Good, adorable. Alright, so adorable lets us know how mice what? It could be how they look, maybe how they act. It's probably not how they act, because people usually freak out in mice because they think they're disgusting. Even though they are kind of cute. They're little. When you look at them, they're all tiny and they're all fuzzy, so they're really cute. Alright, so adorable in this instance is probably explaining how they look. Alright, so good. So now we have some examples. Now I want you guys, I'm going to give you a worksheet. You're going to go through chapter 5, the last chapter that we read, okay? And I want you to try and find a few sentences. There's space for 5, so if anybody's feeling like you want to go really, really hard, you guys can find 5 sentences, alright? I want you to write the noun and the adjective that goes with that noun, that's paired with that noun, okay? And then at the end I want you to write the page number, just so when I'm going through and we're checking our worksheets, we can remember where we found that sentence, okay? So you guys are going to be partnered up and you're going to go through chapter 5, alright? So here's our anchor chart on adjectives. I'm going to leave this up so you guys have some examples. Alright, and you guys are going to partner up and you're going to try it independently. Okay, if you guys have any questions, remember you can raise your hand and ask. I'll be walking around. But remember, we know that nouns are a person, place, or thing, and adjectives describe the noun. Okay, so go ahead, break up. I'll hand out your worksheets. We're ready to go.